Hey, we're going to get started.
Hey guys, we're going to take up two things today. We're going to start with SB1, which obviously a lot of you, as you recall, we passed some consumer protection legislation some time ago, sponsored by Senator Augustine. Bill went over to the House of Delegates, and then I believe it was on the floor. They dropped a pretty significant piece of amendment on to really, alter the bill in a number of respects. And so the question for us at this point on SB1 is whether we concur or not concur with those amendments that were put on the bill over in the House on the floor on the 11th hour. So we've got Senator Augustine moving to not concur, a second from Senator Watson, discussion. And we're going to let's have some discussion. We'll start with Senator Gallion, then we'll go to Senator Carrozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, when this
just to clarify, it's moved to not concur and appoint conferees. So I just correct. So,
when this came over, I guess last week from the House with this huge amendment, it's really hard. I mean, to me, this should have been its own piece of legislation where it goes through the whole process with bill hearings where everybody can come in and weigh in. I mean, we've all heard from different sides on this particular issue. It's like we're dealing with a whole separate bill. So that's why I won't be that's why I'll be agreeing with the amendment to not concur, because something this big I think needs to go through the entire legislative process, not just be shoved across the street like that. So that's my reasoning for this. Thank you.
It's Senator Carrozza.
I know that we spent so much time on SB1, and then there's been the amendment added. I was just trying to still understand exactly how the amendment changed the overall bill, and I guess especially on, I guess when it comes to what customers pay. Is there somebody that can walk through?
To the Senate sponsor, but I think that this, the amendment, I think fairly is really a whole different topic, maybe to Senator Gallion.
I was just really trying to understand that.
Okay, well, I'll yield to the sponsor if Senator Augustine, you want to maybe address something.
Sure, just briefly, Senator Carrozza, it's a little bit of a different matter. It deals with co-location of customers at the site of a energy producer and prohibiting that, which is different than the other parts of what we talked about in SB1. So it really doesn't necessarily pertain to it's like separate. The other parts are still basically what they were. Okay, does that help to explain?
I think you explained what the amendment does on the co-location piece, but when you say it's completely separate, going back to the highlights of SB1.
Correct. It's the highlights of SB1.
Which could you refresh me on that? Just, I mean, I'm looking at a bill file like this, and I just haven't focused on it since we last.
Sure. So the same thing remains for SB1. What came back from the House still is the same, which is in essence 3 parts: a general wholesale energy market with guardrails, a green energy market, similarly a separate green energy market with guardrails, and the third part is the framework for licensure and penalties to make sure that entities who are participating in our retail energy space are not taking advantage of Marylanders. That remains the essence of Senate Bill 1.
So with the amendment added, does that get into additional safeguards
The
for
amendment,
consumer
as had
protection?
been discussed, the amendment is addressing an entirely different matter. It is addressing a matter that relates to how energy suppliers, actual energy suppliers, would interact with their customers, their direct customers, like one-to-one customers. So it's a different thing. How they are somewhat connected is that it's both dealing with the sale of the actual energy. Like that's where it is. But as it relates to the retail energy market for residential, which is what SB1 is, they are not, in essence, they're not related.
So when you hear that the amendment adds additional safeguards to SB1, the response is that the safeguards are unrelated to the original intent of SB1?
There are a series of amendments that came across from the House. We are, and we can separate them. There is the one that deals with the co-location, which part that we've talked about. There are other parts that were more so clarifying amendments that were worked through with the Public Service Commission, which are germane to the Senate Bill 1. And there were some clarifying amendments as well. So those things were there, but that was more, like I'm saying, it was more like the PSC trying to make sure that it's set up in a way that they can operationalize the legislative intent that we sent over.
Okay, so all of it came over together, and what I'm hearing is if there's a non-concurrence, that means that you'd go to conference and some of those amendments that came over may be acceptable and some may not. Is that?
I would say that likely is the case. Yes.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, they put this amendment back to Senator Gallion's point. We didn't have hearing on any of this. There's big issues. There was no process. So, we're responding by not concurring and then again, going to a conference committee to try to hash out the differences. I mean, if we can, we'll see, but that's basically process wise where we're at. So as opposed to just taking what they put on the floor without us, Okay, so we'll go to Senator Hester and then we'll go to Senator Washington. Senator Hester, you're up next.
So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I would agree with the motion to not concur because it is a big separate, issue. That said, I think that that there's important conversations around energy to be had. First of all, I fundamentally think we need to produce more energy in the state of Maryland. And we need to also address the growing need for transmission in a way that is cost effective for ratepayers. At the same time, data centers are here. Like they are in the state, they are out of the state, they are in the PJM region, and they take a lot of energy and a lot of other resources. And so we have to deal with them. And so I just want to remind, the body and the governor's office, they obviously agreed to set up a data center task force, which I'm really looking forward to. And I think that they should look at this issue of co-location in that task force. And then also, I really look forward to this body having that, energy policy advisor who can really help us dig into these issues. So with that, I'm agreeing with the President Pro Tem.
Okay, Senator Washington.
So maybe council can help. And I was going to ask the question and I didn't about single subject. And I know we're very, very open about it, but I just want to understand. You said that the reason we can proceed with a discussion of the amendments is because the amendments have to do with the sale to customers, even if it's not having to do with the retail energy component, or is that, I just want to understand how we're characterizing the amendments.
Happy to clarify on that. So it is germane in that it is the sale of energy. And it does all what everyone has said about it, you know, really being awfully big without sort of like the vetting and everything else is true, but it is specifically speaking to the sale of energy in the same way that the balance of SB1
Great.
deals with the sale of energy.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Okay, any additional questions before we act on the motion to not concur and to request a conference committee? Okay, seeing none, Lamora, let's do a roll call.
All right, Senator Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator,
Yes.
Yes means we're
not concurrent.
Yes, in favor of the motion is a motion to not concur and to go to conference. So if you say yes, you are agreeing with that motion. Correct.
All right, Senator Gallion.
Yes.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young. Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Carozza.
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Hester. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington.
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Simoneer.
Yes.
Senator Simoneer, yes. And Senator Feldman.
Yes, so that motion carries unanimously. We will pick conferees after we don't have to do that right now. Second matter, I want to just, we had hoped that we would use it. So back on the other matter is the Empower program, which obviously we spent a lot of time on the floor, et cetera. The House had some amendments, whether it was the chop tank issue and some other issues. And so we don't have a message back from them in a formal way yet that will allow us to formally act to move to not concur, but we'd like to do a conference committee because I think we've reached, the actual motion would be to not recede and request a conference committee. Council just corrected me. And so what I'm going to ask us to do, I think we've come up with maybe a middle ground informally behind the scenes conversation. So I'm hopeful we'll reach a compromise, but I don't think we should just take the House's amendments as they put it on the bill. Or actually, we put amendments on the bill that they have rejected, and so that's kind of where we're at. So they want us to recede, and I'm suggesting we don't recede, and that we move forward with, I think, a good chance of a compromise on what the differences in the two bills. And so with that,
To not receive and request a conference committee.
correct. And this is sort of preemptory because formally we're supposed to have received the message saying, you guys back off, said it, but we haven't actually received the message, but we can sort of preemptively take the vote. And then when it does come across the desk later, we'll have taken the vote here in the committee. So it's a motion to not recede and to request a conference committee. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second from, who was our second? From Senator Watson. Okay, let's do a roll call on this one too.
All right, Senator Augustine.
Yes.
Senator Augustine, yes. Senator Gallion. Senator Gallion abstains. Senator Watson. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Lewis Young. Senator Lewis Young, yes. Senator Carozza. Senator Carozza abstains. Senator Hester. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Washington. Senator Washington, yes. And Senator Simoneer. Senator Simoneer, yes. And Senator Feldman.
Okay, that motion carries and that completes our work for the morning. And after session, we're probably going to have 2 sessions today. And so I think we're going to come back here, not vote much, but take that window, whatever that window is, and at least do some voting because we have, a bunch of bills still that we can vote on. So with that, this morning meeting is hereby adjourned.